Greetings. I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of depth. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today, sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment you are valued, you are loved, and you are appreciated just as you are. Why is this my year of depth? That is a question that we are going to be exploring through a new series called Deeper Gratitude. I believe that our most important work happens when we go deep on what matters most to us. Instead of trying to go wide and only go shallow, instead picking a few things to go deep on. There is where we can find our greatest contribution, our greatest impact, but also our most fulfilling work. So throughout the rest of 2021, throughout the rest of my year of depth, this series is going to bring to you different guests, different people I admire, I love, and that I want you to connect with and learn, first of all, where are they going deep in their life? Then they're going to share with you where they'd like to see you go deep. And lastly, what fuels that deep work they're doing through their gratitude. Now, like I said, we're going to use this intro for each one. So if you're hearing this and thinking, I heard this episode last week, don't worry. Same intro, different guests. Now, all of these episodes were recorded through June through July 2021. The year is always unpredictable. And so I say the date of when this was recorded so you have context, just in case if I release this in October or something like that. It lets you know we didn't know what was going to happen in October. Although I'm releasing this in October or November, all of these were released in the context of June and July 2021. Okay, that's enough for me. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Welcome back. We have our next guest. Her name is London Jones. What's going on, London?
Not much. How's it going, Tom?
It is, for folks who follow along, last time we had you on here was for the episodes for Jaima. We didn't know her name then when you recorded it.
That's true. Yes. I can't believe it's been that long.
Truly. I know.
That's like 2 years.
Yes. And it is June 21st today. So for folks. And London, how would you describe yourself in 6 words?
Yeah. Great question. Very difficult question. But the way I would describe myself, include thoughtful, ambitious, sensitive, complex, curious, and playful.
That was a difficult question, you said?
Yeah, no, it took a while to like really, hone in on 6. I think I had like 13 before, and I was like, I need to narrow these down. So
how did you pick the 6? How did they make the final cut?
I was thinking about what words describe like my personality, what words describe maybe my emotions and my thinking that maybe not are always, visible to other people. And also what are like the different sides of myself. So I was trying to find words that were comprehensive in some ways. So.
And what do you think the finished product of the 6-word poem, self-biography, what do you think it says about who you are?
I think I'm pretty proud of this like 6-word, like I think they're very honest. And I think they make sense for who I am today. I don't know that I would have chosen these, same words, a year or 2 ago, but I think for today, they really resonate.
Is there a particular one that comes to mind when you say, I don't know if I would have chosen this a year or 2 ago, that comes to mind of like, yeah, that one's a new one?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sensitive. I think that for a long time, I shied away from that word or didn't feel, really proud or empowered by that word. But I've really started to learn a lot about my high sensitivity to just like general beingness. So in life in general. So that word, I've started to really hold kind of dearly and a little bit more tender than I would have a few years ago.
And if I might be able to just venture one step further, but feel free to say, let's move on. What do you think was the journey, or what created the ability to embrace it?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And I'll definitely talk about some of that later in our conversation. But I, really started to notice things about myself that felt unusual. And so I sought the support of a therapist. And during those conversations, it really became clear that I'm a highly sensitive person. And again, another label that I was like, I don't like this. I hate how this sounds. I'm going to run away from it. But over the last few years, I've allowed myself to really kind of settle into what does that mean for me? And, what parts of this are true for me? What parts of these actually maybe don't resonate for me? And it's been the biggest relief of my life to understand and have language for some of the ways that I move and act and behave that were kind of just, completely unusual to me for a while. So yeah, therapists save lives every day.
It's fun. The themes that are coming up, because I think all in all, there's about 20 people I'm interviewing for this, that therapy has been a theme in going deeper.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, they're here for a reason.
Yes. And I like the foreshadowing. So let's jump into the rest of it so we can hear some that you're alluding to. Where are you going deeper, or where are you going deeper in your life?
Yeah. So another wonderful question that I realized that, the last year has, really illuminated, I think, for myself that there are some areas of my life that I was a bit more passive in. And at the start of the pandemic, I lost my job. And that was really illuminating for multiple reasons, but mostly because I learned and noticed that, until I developed my own, business and practices and things that I offered, that I would always be susceptible to, a possible pandemic and a possible job loss. And so, where an area that I've been going really deep is just allowing myself to feel fortified by taking care of like the adulty things in my life. So that has really included building up my organization that I work with two other co-founders on, really settling and grounding into like, how do we want to be as practitioners, as, leaders in our community, and what all comes with that? What kinds of legal things do we need? What kinds of accounting things do we need? And that has just been, it sometimes feels very technical and really disjointed from, spirit. But what I've noticed is that it's just kind of elongating this feeling of protection that I feel already, right? I feel kind of divinely protected. But having these kinds of conversations allow me to really settle into how do we care for ourselves for the long haul, and how do we care for our family and our communities in that way too. So that's where I've been going deeper. I've also, I talked about noticing being highly sensitive and really started to coming into that, and what that means for me when there's, a lot of confusion, I think, about what that means. It does not mean that I'm a crybaby, although I love crybabies and it's cancer season, so welcome. But what it really means is that there is a level of stimulation that becomes overwhelming for me. And so I have been really working to design my world, my everyday, in a way that honors that rather than drains, that sensitivity. And it's come with a lot of like support. So a therapist, a coach, reading and books and listening to people and talking to other people who may not identify as highly sensitive, but have some of those similarities. So there have been a lot of areas that have influenced my own understanding of myself. And I think deepen my relationship to who I am as, a 33-year-old person now.
I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. It sounds like it's been a journey and going deeper on definition, defining what thing is. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it. You heard my yes. Yeah.
So it brings me to this other question, which might be a really circumnavigating. So I always heard Huey P. Newton would always define power in this confusing way to me. He'd say that power is the ability to define phenomenon and make it act in a desirable way. I was like, what? What does this mean? So hearing you talk about definition, defining, and kind of listening to that definition, do you see like a parallel to power, like a self-empowerment, power in this journey you've been going on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think what that definition is like really kind of, igniting in me is the ability to say that this unique set of qualities or characteristics, I'm going to assemble them in this way, and then I'm going to call it this thing, and then I'm going to apply it to these different, communities or events. And, that for me, I mean, that definition is like, wow, my mind is a little blown right now. And, in my own personal journey, having language to describe the sensation of feeling overwhelmed or the sensation of being drained in a way that does not, connect to physical exertion, for me has been a true gift in many ways, because then I can say, I know I need more space in my day to, have more time to go for a walk or to reconnect with something natural. And I feel like I am able to show up so like profoundly and, leaps and bounds in my work and my community, because I know enough about myself to know when I have it and when I don't. So that has been such a gift. And I do think there's a true power in that.
This is such a wonderful moment.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Do you want to, since we open the door, do you want to take the opportunity to plug or share the work you're doing, or is that for another time?
Let's hang on to that. We have some cool stuff coming. So yeah, let's hang on to that. It'll be an opportunity to see you again too.
I like it. What do you want people to go deeper on?
I tried to, really think about this question. And I finally said, just allow yourself to feel it in that moment. And I think what I always hold for people is the wish and the prayer that they will give themselves the space they need to really understand what's happening internally. I think most of us, I won't say all of us, but, most of us have in some ways and to varying degrees adopted practices or ways to cope with our day-to-day. And those may be soul fulfilling, or they may be band-aids, or they may be any number of things, but sometimes they're not actually honest or true for ourselves and who we are today. And so my wish is that people have used this time, right, to really see what is important to them or, to their families, and allow themselves to remember that, because there is a urgent push right now to forget. There's an urgent push to release and an urgent push to go back to what was. And I think we are the folks that are really holding the ability to say no more. We won't return to things as they were because they don't serve us. And so I hope that people have taken that opportunity.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to, just because I have context for you that maybe the folks listening who don't. And so, unless things have changed from when we last talked, you're in that work of just what you said. We're not going to let you forget. And so, whatever word we want to use, doing good work, activism work, making the world a better place, service, nonprofit, mission driven, all of these things, I think that community of folks are often the ones to neglect taking care of themselves. Okay. Absolutely. I think I'll need to say anything more. I'd love to hear you expand.
Oh, yes. I mean, any of the compassionate fields, right? Like, I think even of therapists were so tapped, this last year. I have a lot of friends that are therapists, and, they're going to their therapist, like, what do I do? And not because they are any less, capable of holding, but there was so much to hold. And that happens in all of our organizations as well. As we are often, leaders are often the ones to say we don't take as much, or we have to pour more in. And if something is not working or functioning, we pour even more in rather than, pouring into ourselves. And so my hope and what I see is that there is a tide turning. I think people are having this conversation enough to recognize that they also have to give to themselves first, and that we cannot separate the workplace from our spirit. Like, they are one and the same. And traditional generations, I think, have adopted practices to create this disconnectedness, or a semblance of disconnectedness. And I think a lot of people are saying and seeing that we have to allow ourselves to show up fully human, because we are not compartmentalized beings. We are full beings at all times. And so how can we create spaces that honor that and also reflect the level of care we deserve for the world that we have today? We did not inherit the same world from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's a different set of functions. So that is my hope for people, that they're seeing that.
Is there anything else you want to expand upon on the forgetting? And
oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, it's very, I notice it in kind of our mass kind of communications around opening the world back up. And in that conversation, there is an enthusiasm, there is an excitement, and I completely understand. And I also feel that enthusiasm to be able to see people, to be able to reconnect, to be able to have some sense of normalcy. And I think that there is a transition that we should also honor, in that I remember there was a yoga teacher that I was, practicing with one time. And she said, as important as it is to get to your next posture, it's also important to recognize the transition. And so when you're moving from one posture to the next, it's not just about getting to the next thing and being there. That transition period is also very important. And we are in that transition, and there are no templates for how to honor the grief from last year, the mass loss, the confusion, the constant worry. And so for myself, I know that has required me to go slower with things, and go slower with, just emerging, because I have not done that transition. I have not fully allowed myself to be in that transition yet either.
It's a nice aha for me that the transition isn't just something I move through. It's its own time period in and of
Yes,
itself.
exactly.
That's awesome. What are you grateful for?
I am grateful first just for being alive. And I don't think that I would have said that last year or the year before with the same sense of significance as I feel it right now. But the last year has, there has been kind of constant grief within my family. And the fact that I am still alive and still present and still have the ability to meet with people like you and talk to people has a different weight these days than I think it ever has in my life.
So it sounds like there's a relationship between difficulty and gratitude.
I guess so. I'm not sure, actually. I'm gonna take that back. I'm not sure, but I'll sit with that. Maybe. I'm not gonna knock it.
Tell me about it. What was the yes, and then what was the argument that was like no?
The yes, I think, was probably the recovering people pleaser in me. And then the no was what is the truth in that? Can I find it? Can I access it? And it's not that it doesn't exist, but I did not know for myself what was really there.
I'm thinking through what I heard that brought me to say that. And it was what I was hearing you say is, I'm grateful to be alive. And I wouldn't have said that this time last year, but it's because of everything I've been through this past year that makes me grateful to say that.
Yeah.
Am I hearing that that's what you said?
Yeah, that is what I said. And so, yeah, I do understand your question a bit more now. The difficulty, right? Like the emotions were difficult. The just general coping was very difficult. And that does make me feel very grateful for life in a way that, I don't think I had before.
What makes me afraid to even ask that question, and maybe what makes the hesitant to co-sign it, so it's like a lot of discomfort even around it, is then like, was that suffering yours or anybody's? Was it a good thing then? Should it happen? Should we suffer so we can feel grateful? That's kind of my fear in asking it. Is that the fear in affirming it too? Or maybe fear's not the right word, but
I think that it's not true in all cases, right? I think it is a potential equation, right? That suffering, and there is a gift in suffering, and that suffering can lead to insight, to reflection, to just stronger sense of worth. But that I don't think it should always come from a place of suffering. And so that, I think, is my hesitancy, not necessarily fear, but I think that's my hesitancy in grouping those, is that we must suffer in order to feel joy, or we must suffer in order to feel gratitude. I think we should be able to just feel those things at all time, no matter what has transpired.
And if I could just pick myself apart even further.
By all means.
We have a lot of best intentions between us, but I do think as a white guy saying to a black woman, like, even like challenge and gratitude in the same sentence can be a slippery slope to like, well, you should be grateful. Look what you went through. You're in such a better place. Is that there too? Or now am I just like going too far?
I mean, I think it could be. I think when we I always think about like who has that power in that conversation, right? And for me, I am saying that it has led me to some deeper insight, and I am grateful for that. So I come from a place of power in this, right? Those were my experiences. my understandings and perceptions of those experiences. And therefore I can say and claim, these are my conclusions, rather than someone recognizing my experience and saying, well, now you should have these insights and you should have these conclusions about your experience. That's where I think the distinction is for me.
I like that distinction.
Yeah.
Thanks for going on this journey with me on that line
absolutely.
of inquiry. Do you think gratitude is in the same family as awareness, observant, present?
I do. And all of that, I think it requires a noticing. And the noticing is sometimes informed by the slowing down. And I think the practice of being present, the practice of being grateful, have some of the same steps leading to them. And I say that really because I have to notice what is happening for myself, both internally and externally, to be able to say, oh, I feel grateful for this, to really feel it, right? Not to just, oh, I'm grateful for you, or, not the email sign off, but the like actual embodied gratefulness, where I can sit and say, this is functioning in my life. And there are presences that have informed this. And I may not have been the only one orchestrating this. So that for me, there are moments that happen like that require some slowing down to get to.
And what would your invitation be to those who are listening right now? What would you like to invite them to do, to be, to consider, to evolve into, think about? What's your invitation?
Yeah, when I originally thought about this, I had a different invitation, but now I think because of this conversation, the invitation to recognize the transition and to be with the transition, and the hope that there is just as much intention poured into planning, to thinking ahead, to reflecting back as there is to moving forward. That is my invitation.
That is wonderful. This has been a wonderful conversation, London. I want to thank you so much. I'm grateful for you sharing this with us. And for folks who want to emphasize that gratitude, they want to say, I am also grateful. Where can they, if you'd like, reach out and tell you how much they appreciate you?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on Instagram. My name is at London Marice. That's Marice, like Maurice without a U. And that would be the best place for folks to find me.
Well, we appreciate that. And hopefully y'all get at London and connect with her. London, how would you summarize, how would you describe this conversation we just had in one word?
A journey.
Yeah. I love that. Well, it's a journey I am grateful that we went through together, and I appreciate you all listening to it with us. So thank you, London.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you.
My pleasure. Today's date is June 21st, and I am joined by the fantastic, the brilliant Rayesa. How's it going? Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. And you know what we do best, go deep.
There you go. That's the theme. That is the theme. So how would you describe yourself in 6 words?
Okay. Authentic, clear, patient, compassionate, confident, resilient, and a servant of God.
We're gonna let phrases count as one word. That's counting.
All right.
What was the process you went through of picking those words?
It was really connecting to my true authentic self. and being able to see myself for who I truly am as created by my creator, rather than the perception of who I think I am or who others think I am. And I've been doing a lot of work on that. So it's just really landed for me, those words.
What does that look like, doing a lot of work on that, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Yeah. It comes down to getting to know myself through knowing my creator, understanding who Allah or God is, and understanding who I am through who God is, and understanding who God is through knowing myself. And it's like this, if you can imagine like a sideways figure eight, it just ebbs and flows into each other in that relationship. And that's, becoming more connected to myself and connected to God in this type of grounding.
How do you go about doing something as important and wonderful as that?
That's a beautiful question. It's really just coming back home to yourself and coming back home to that connection that each one of us has, but have been so disconnected from it. Meaning, like, we come when we're born, we are so connected, like this pure, authentic joy and goodness, right? And we get disconnected from it as we go through life's experiences. And how do you do that? I have, I have groups and mentors that have helped me in this understanding and this coming back home to who I really am. And however, it's available to everybody because it's your birthright. And it's just coming back to, I think we live our life so disconnected by being so rushed and so busy that we lose sight of how important the connection to yourself, the quietness, the slowing down to the speed of peace, to the speed of, of connection, that it's naturally hardwired within us. And if you want to know more about like the details of how, that's what I built my work and my foundation on. And, I can share the formula more in depth, but it's just coming back to our birthright and that we all have it. It's just that, slowing down, I think, is a big way to describe it.
I appreciate that. I love right out the gate, y'all get an insight into when Rayesa and I talk. We don't waste time.
No, we don't. We connect and we go real deep,
Yes.
So.
Yes. Speaking of going deep, where are you going deep in your life?
Lately, I've been noticing letting go, letting God. And I've been on this journey for a while, but the extent and the level of letting go and letting God has just leveled up or gotten deeper for me in terms of trusting divine planning by renewing and being clear on what my intention is around every action that I take, and completely detaching from the outcome. And even that, detaching from the outcome, for me has looked like on very different levels. It's going deeper and leveling up in terms of like you don't know what you don't know until you know it, and you can't see what you can't see until you see it, right? So being able to see how I have been perhaps holding on to attachments of certain outcomes has perhaps not allowed me to show up with bold action where I needed to take bold action, and being able to let go of attachments to certain outcomes in my life have allowed me to show up knowing that I'm doing what I need to, and I'm allowing God to take me into amazing, wonderful directions of what he chooses rather than what I choose.
It brings up for me that must take a lot of trust and courage.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so.
Trust in what?
Trust in a higher power. Trust in the power that makes the world go round, the power that controls the universe. A power bigger than me. And one of the things that I've been saying to myself recently is like, Rayesa, you think you know, but what is it that you know? And when I get stuck in my thinking, it's been helpful to be able to take a step back and allow my connection to God and to myself lead me with wisdom rather than my fearful thinking or insecure thinking, and just acting on my emotions rather than clarity and wisdom. And it's not easy, and it's definitely uncomfortable to be in those feelings, yet act on truth, and yet act on what I know is true and what I know is holding me back from fears.
So it's fun. I've been doing these interviews, doing about 20 altogether. And so there's words that everyone seems to bring up in all of theirs. And you just brought up two of them. Okay. One is power. Then when I talk about what are you going deep in, the word power inevitably finds its way in. Mm-hmm. So for you, where does power lie? What is power? What you went, so just even, what are you thinking? What does that bring up for you?
Yeah. A lot of what's going on is for me as well, especially when you bring up that word, is yes, there's a higher power, divine power, right? And the belief and the connection to that. However, that higher power has also enabled me with my own personal power of choice. And to be able to see that I get to choose how I want to think about a circumstance or a situation. I get to choose how I think, and to not, and also get to choose how I'm going to respond. And that's what I mean by slowing down. When we're in this reactionary, quick, fast pace, we don't recognize, it may look like we don't have a choice, but the being able to slow down, in my thinking and in my response has allowed me to really see, to not feel defeated or hopeless or helpless. Sometimes when that thinking creeps in of like, you feel like you're stuck or that there's no way out, slowing down has really helped me to see that, wait a minute, I've been created as a human being with the ability to choose, unlike no other creation. And I also am accountable and responsible for my choices and my actions, and how am I going to stand behind it? And I get to choose to be in alignment with the values that I have. And so I feel like that is so liberating and so powerful and so freeing, that we all were created as human beings with personal power, and seeing that no one or nothing has power over you unless you allow them to.
I love that. The other one was discomfort. That was the other theme that keeps coming up, is discomfort.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I think when we're in our feelings, feelings of fear, it feels so real. However, when we recognize that feelings feel real, and it's your truth and your reality. However, we don't want to act on our feelings. We want to act on truth. And everything we think and we feel is not true. Maybe my truth, but there's a difference between my truth and the truth. And so the discomfort comes in being in our feelings, which also brings about a disassociation from the emotional, spiritual, and physical component of the self, in terms of when we're disconnected from ourself, there's a physical disconnection as well, of our body. And so understanding what that looks like and giving myself the compassion to pause, to settle back into my grounding, to allow myself to connect, to connect back to myself and connect back to God in those moments of disconnection, allows me to embrace my humanity with grace, that when I settle back in, I will know exactly what I need to do. And I am okay at all times, even when I'm not feeling okay, because I know that, God never sends me more than I can handle. So, I've got this and God has got me. So I'll get there, I'll get there. I just need to be kind and compassionate and patient with myself. And surrender to the timeline that God has for me, rather than resist and resist and come through with my own timeline.
I love that. Oh, this is so great. What do you want people to go deeper on?
I would invite you to, if you're listening to this, to go into your connection with yourself and self-awareness, your own grounding, and that you're going to find it internally, not externally. Don't look outside of yourself to people, to circumstance or situations, or the way you think things need to be to find your grounding. And one of the things I find really helps me, that I like to suggest, is also taking your hand and placing it on your heart and feeling your physical hand on your physical body over your physical heart, which also has a spiritual component, because you are a spiritual being in a physical body. Living life as a spiritual experience in a physical world, that our heart was designed to connect to our Creator. So just breathe into that and land into that. Close your eyes and settle into that you are okay, and you are protected, and you are cared for, and you are loved, and you are almost like cradled in these arms of your Creator, and sit into that to find your grounding, to find your being okay, and your connection to yourself through your connection to your higher power, to be able to see that, your birthright is of natural well-being, which is innate, to be naturally at peace, to be naturally resilient, that you are hardwired that way.
What I love about what you're saying is, usually we're taught that God is out here. And so, worship this thing that's out here. And I'm hearing you say, to do that, you actually should go within.
You got it. And it's kind of how I explained that figure 8, right? That connection between yourself and God. There's two entities here, the self and God. And those are your two most important relationships. You have a relationship with yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you view yourself, how you see yourself, how you relate to yourself. And your relationship with God, they're interconnected. And that affects every single other relationship you have with anyone you encounter. And it reflects every single decision you make and every choice you make. So absolutely, we're not taught about that connection. And actually, we're actually made to see that it's a separation and it's a disconnection. And that's why things feel kind of chaotic in life sometimes.
It brings up for me what we talked about earlier, power and discomfort. How do you think what we're talking about now, going within your connection with the two biggest parts of yourself and God, where do you think power and discomfort come into there?
Yeah. Well, when we all come or hardwired to be connected to God and to ourselves. That's the way we navigate peacefully, calmly, confidently, resiliently through the challenges of life, right? But there are but we do get disconnected to our grounding and our source momentarily. And so in those moments of disconnection, we can feel powerless. We feel discomfort in those moments of disconnection. But when we come back to the innate hardwiring that we have within us in being human, and we're connected to God and connected to ourselves, there's this calmness, there's this peace, there's this contentment that allows you to see your own personal power.
I love that. Yes. So many nice ahas you're just gifting us with.
Oh, this is amazing. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for right now?
Oh, so many things, so many things. I am so grateful for being able to see the things that I was not able to see previously. And when I talk about seeing, I don't mean to see with my eyes. I'm talking about to see with the spiritual eyes of the heart. It may sound like, what the heck is she talking about? In other words, I am grateful to have clarity. I'm grateful to have clarity in who I am and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and to have conviction behind my decisions and my actions. I'm grateful to have the connection to my Creator, and to have that trust and that reliance on God, that it's okay, that even when terrifying, scary things come my way, if I'm attached to the source, then it'll be okay, even when it doesn't feel okay. So I'm grateful for being in that space, even when I lose sight of that. Everything I just described, I lose sight of it, as we humans do. Sometimes we lose sight of that. But being able to come back to it, I'm really grateful for that.
Alhamdulillah. That's wonderful. And what is your invitation to those who are listening? What would you like to invite them to do, to be, to consider, to think about? What's your invitation?
My invitation is that you're hardwired for peace, for greatness, for emotional well-being, for just well-being. And that there's always hope. In the moments of not being connected and not seeing, a lot of what I just talked about, we can lose moments of hope where we're feeling resistance and discomfort and unease, that we can lose hope sometimes. And my invitation is that there is always hope, always. And really, to slow down. I guess my invitation is really to find ways to slow down and stop running.
I love that. And for folks who are resonating with this, you had mentioned before you have a program you do. If they want to learn more about that, they want to learn more about you, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. You can visit my website, www.rayesagheewala.com. That's spelled RayesaGheewala. Or you can, follow me on Instagram, Rayesa Gheewala. Yeah, Rayesa Gheewala on Instagram. And, reach out, and I'd love to connect.
Wonderful. And be sure to reach out. Rayesa has wonderful, wonderful programs, y'all. Go ahead and just consume her amazing, amazing content. Rayesa, I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful you joined us here today. So thank you. And
my pleasure.
Thank you. And if I could ask one last question, how would you summarize this conversation in one word?
Epic.
Epic. That's wonderful. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this epic conversation. I know I had a blast having it. So thank you once again, Rayesa.
You're welcome.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Deeper Gratitude. I hope you appreciated getting to learn where my guests are going deeper, their invitation to you on where they'd like to see you go deeper. And I hope it had offered some insights into what people are doing emotionally to fuel this important work. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this series. Please reach out to me at Tom Earl Artist, tom@tomearl.com, or if you'd like to go deeper in your marketing and your Facebook or Instagram ads, you can find a ton of free resources by going to tomearl.me/ads, tomearl.me/ads. Please reach out to my guests from this week. Let them know how much you appreciate them, support their work. It has truly been an honor having you share your greatest gifts with us, your time and energy. And I look forward to you joining us next week. As always, I'm wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.